Banana bread is my favorite recipe of all time. It's actually the oldest recipe I have. It's a little over 2 decades old. It's a simple, easy, delicious recipe. Here are the ingredients. I'll include a link below that'll give you all the details, including nutrition. You want to begin by preheating your oven to 350 or 180 C. You'll need 3/4 of a cup of softened butter. This is 170 grams. Now use butter in this recipe. You can substitute margarine and you can use oil as well, but when I say to use butter, it really means something because I'm not a big proponent on butter when it can be substituted. To this, you want to add 1.5 cups of sugar, 300 grams. You can mix and match the sugar. I used a cup of sugar that was white and 1/2 cup of brown sugar. You can use all brown, you can use all white, you can use a mixture of the two. The brown just gives it a nice molasses taste to it, and it'll brown up the bread a little bit nicer, I think. Mix this together on a low speed until you get it into a crumbly mess. You'll see what I mean in just a second. After you get this into just a gentle mix, you're going to add in the 4 bananas. I like to have 436 grams or 2 cups pureed. I actually make this in a blender and not even use a mixer because it's so much faster and I just like the texture of it better. If you like to have chunks of banana, then mash it up more gently. If you don't like to even taste the banana chunks at all, like if you have a texture issue, take the time, put it through a food processor or a blender, and it'll be completely smooth, and you'll have this wonderful banana flavor all throughout the bread. That's actually my preference, but I am pretending that maybe you don't have access to a blender, so I'm going to show you how to do it the old-fashioned way. You can also mix this by hand, but it's very difficult with the banana. So I went ahead and pulled out the old mixer. And you can pick up a mixer for like $5 to $10 depending on where you're at and what store you go to. So they're not that expensive. And I like to get my bananas when they're just speckled. You can get these to the point that they look like they're rotten and the peel just falls off completely. If you do that, just know that the sugars in banana are really intense. Oh wait, sorry. Raymond's asking for a piece of banana. I should stop. Here you go, boy. Okay, sorry. So the darker the banana, the more sugar. So keep that in mind. You might want to adjust your sugar down by about 1/4 of a cup if you have really dark bananas because it will be sweetness overload. And all you do is just mix it up and you just want to blend it until you get it to the chunkiness that you like. If you like a chunky banana bread, it only takes a few seconds again. If you like it really smooth, beat the tar out of this. Turn it on like medium and just go for a couple minutes. You don't have to worry about if you overmix it too much in this stage. It's really when you add the flour that you have to be a little more gentle. So at this point, you can just mix it as much as you want. The only thing that's going to happen here is you're going to create more air, which will actually lift the bread. So feel free to just mix this until your heart's content. Once you get it to the consistency you like, let's scrape down the sides just briefly, and that will just help everything get mixed well together. You can put this again in a blender, and if you do that, you can mix it all together all at once. Just turn it on for like 2 minutes, and you're done. But let's move on. We're going to use 4 eggs, which is 200 grams. Just dump them all in at once. And then we need some salt, which is 1 teaspoon or 5 grams. To that, we're going to use baking powder. You can use a combination of baking powder or baking soda, but I like baking powder. 2.5 teaspoons, which is 10 grams. Then we're going to add in our flour, which is 2.5 cups or 375 grams, and that's it. Turn this on a very low speed so you don't fly flour all over the place. If you're having some difficulties, you can stop and you can use your spatula and mix it a little bit so that the flour doesn't go everywhere. And I'm going to do that right now because it started to fly up the side of the bowl because I have a slightly smaller bowl than I should have. It's been a long time since I've mixed this in a bowl and not in a blender. Okay, so pick it back up and you're going to mix it a little bit more. And if you're having trouble with it flying up on the edges, just take a minute and scrape down the edges and mix it again. You're going to mix this until you no longer see any more pockets of flour. Don't overmix it. Don't put it on a high speed. You want to treat this a lot like you would treat a muffin. Just mix it gently until it's ready. Okay, once you got that done, you get to decide if you want nuts in it or not. If you do want nuts, you're going to use 1 cup of 113 grams of the nuts of your choice. Walnuts are traditional. I'm actually going to use pecans because I realized I had no walnuts at the last minute. And you can break them up if you like, or you can use the whole nut. It really just depends on how you like it. You could pulverize these, put them in about a teaspoon of flour, and give them a quick toss, and that will help them suspend and not just all sink to the bottom. If you like, you can make one giant loaf, which is a 9 by 5 pan, or 13 by 23 centimeter, I believe. Or you make two small pans, which is what I'm going to do. I'm using the same 9 by 5 pan again, but I'm just going to use one, and I'm going to just make banana bread. The other one, I'm going to put the nuts in and make a banana nut bread. The reason why I do this is because we just like a variation. Some days we like it where it's just plain banana and just nice and rich, and then other days you like that texture that the banana nut bread gives. It's really just a way to make two types of bread in one batch. If you want this to be a tall loaf, use just one pan, or my friend Alora, she told me she uses an 8 by 8 or a 20 centimeter pan, and it looks a lot like a cake, and actually it looked really good. I'm going to try that next time. I think that could be really good. I like to make those two small loaves, and then we slice it up and put it in the freezer, and it freezes super well. It lasts about 3 months in the freezer before it gets freezer burned, and it's easy. You just pull it out what slice you want about half hour before you want to eat it, and it's just delicious. So I'll leave it up to you how you want to prepare this. It's all baked the same way. It takes about an hour. Just start checking it in about 55 minutes. And that is it. Once you get it out there, just try to smooth it out. It's going to be a really thick batter, so just push it into the corners. If you don't, it's okay. It will still bake deliciously. I like to use parchment paper like this in a sling. I just keep a lot of scrap parchment paper, and I use what I have. I baked this for 55 minutes in my oven until a toothpick inserted came out clean. Let it sit for 10 minutes before you try to move it out of the pan. Just walk away. I know it smells delicious. Go away. Come back. Okay, magically appears another cooling rack, and as you see, with that sling, you just lift it right out. If you have a well-prepared pan, it's easy. If you have a nonstick pan, you'll have no issues. If your pan isn't nonstick, just grease and prepare it like you would any other pan. You can use spray, or you can grease and flour it. Let it cool completely, or at least 20 minutes before you slice into it, or it just falls apart. I'm actually slicing into this warm because we like it warm. And I will show you how easy this is to cut into. And I'm going to guess that this one is the one with the nuts in it, just based on the texture on the top. Hopefully I'm right. But I'm just using a plain old butter knife. This is how tender the crumb is on this bread. I mean, look at this. It just slices right through with just a butter knife. And here comes Maggie, because this is like her favorite thing in the whole wide world. She's always begging for crumbs on this. They love bananas. And this is what it will look like when you're done. Just a really beautiful loaf of bread. It's so tasty. It's actually better the next day when those bananas really get to sit. And you can refrigerate this if you like it's traditional, or you can leave it out on the counter covered. That is entirely up to you. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. It's one of my favorites. It's the oldest recipe I actually own that I have modified over the years, and I continue to modify it. Feel free to modify it yourself. Add more nuts, less nuts, no nuts. Have fun with it. Add different types of sugar. See what happens. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, go to jacksonsjob.com for more recipes, and have a great day. Happy baking.